First fish of the trip. I'm just getting started on my first canoe trip of the year. I've been anxious to get out on the water. It just hasn't worked out as of yet. But today I got a gap in my schedule. I'm going to go for 3 days and 2 nights, going back in on some state land here in Michigan and hoping to catch some fish, see a lot of wildlife, and have a good time. This wind is something else. So even though the day wasn't favorable for getting on the water, I decided to make the best of it. It rained on and off throughout the day and the winds continued non-stop. I took my big camera and I walked down along the creeks and beaver dams looking for whatever wildlife and waterfowl that I could get. It actually turned out to be a pretty good day. I attempted to set up camp right on the shore of the lake, and the wind was having no part of that. It tried to take my fly away, it turned the hammock into a sail. Winds are topping 40 miles an hour today, so I moved inland a ways from the lake, trying to find some shelter in the hills, but it isn't much better no matter where I try. So it's getting pretty late in the day and I still don't have camp set up, so I got to come up with something pretty soon. I guess this spot is as good as any to set up camp. I'm not really out of the wind, but I am sheltered a little bit from some of the heavy winds that I had down by the lake. I have a scenic beaver pond to look at, and there's a fire ring and a little bit of firewood here. I'm gonna get camp set up and make something to eat and call it a night. I saw a little bit of color in the sky as the sun was setting to the west. It'll be dark soon, so I have a ribeye steak to cook up and a Sheboygan brewing blackberry blonde ale to wash it down with. So I'm gonna get this cooking before I end up in total darkness. Steak tastes fantastic. I'm gonna steal my headlight from the camera, put it on my head so I can see what I'm doing, because I am starving. Well, I am finally out on the water. First time this year. The plan was to be on the water yesterday, shortly after I arrived at the launch area. There were gale force winds, white caps. Ended up being that there were winds topping 40 miles an hour yesterday, and it continued right up into the dark. So I never made it on the water yesterday. Instead, I went for a few nature walks and just tried to see how many waterfowl and other animals I could catch on camera. That was pretty cool. I just had a half dozen deer or so come in and walk right up to the water. I think they eventually all spooked out because they saw me out here floating around. But anyway, I was able to get the big camera out and get a little video of them before they took off. Let's see what else we see. An eagle just landed on a branch, but he's a little bit too far out for the lens that I have on. So I'm going to try to get a little closer to him, but I'm pretty sure he's going to fly off. As a teenager and a young man, I used to hunt with my dad in an area called Haymarsh Lakes, and I had never had opportunity to canoe that area before. So this spring I decided that that would be my first destination. Originally I was going to do a coastal trip on Lake Michigan. Large waves, high winds and stuff weren't going to permit it. So I decided to come inland and check out the Haymarsh Lakes. So the one drawback about camping here is you can't backcountry camp. You have to camp in an approved campsite because it is a state game area. I have one on the water. It's not exactly what I'd call super remote or anything, but it worked out nice. One of the nice things about this kind of campground is having a picnic table. Makes things a whole lot easier. I will say it is nice having a picnic table. That's something I very seldom have when I'm camping. I'm having scrambled eggs with sauteed mushrooms and scallions and some Frank's Red Hot sauce. And a nice hot cup of coffee. Oh yeah. Nothing wrong with this breakfast. Well, I've explored the main lake about halfway. I checked out through the little bayous and just looking for different waterfowl and animals. Depending on how the wind is, I'd like to explore the south end of the lake. It looks like it has a lot more features down there, a lot of islands. So, we'll check that out. Check that out after we get something to eat. It's turning out to be a gorgeous day. The temperature has risen at least 20 degrees. It's in the low to mid 60s now. So I shed some layers and I'm just out walking and looking for animals. I just saw a sleeping porcupine in a tree. I believe he had his back to me because I couldn't see his face, at least not through my little viewfinder on the camera. I did the best I could. I couldn't get any closer to it. There's too much underbrush. Every winter I spend hours looking at maps, trying to find something that is worthy of a canoe trip. And it's just so difficult when you live somewhere like the lower peninsula of Michigan. There's very few wilderness areas, and even fewer of them that offer the opportunity for a decent canoe trip. The reason I chose this place is because there's no cottages on the lakes. I have it kind of to myself, but it just really lacks that wilderness feeling that you get when you go up into Ontario or into the UP or upper Minnesota or Boundary Waters or something like that. If you're from the lower peninsula and you're like me, I feel your pain. There's not too many places that you call wilderness anymore down here. Well, for my evening paddle, I'm making it down into the south end of the lake. It looks like it might start raining on me. There's been a few sprinkles. I'm coming up into the outlet of this lake. There's a portage there that goes around the small dam, and then you can make your way down a little channel into a kind of a real shallow, marshy looking lake down there. So I took a walk earlier and saw a lot of waterfowl out there. I'm just coming up to the dam. I'm not going to portage around it tonight. I might do that in the morning. I switched back to the double blade. The double blade's a little easier to use when I need to grab the camera. I can just set it on my lap and I can dip it the left or the right side in. Gives me a lot more control when I'm trying to get in position for the camera. I'm going by some of the islands in the south end. Beautiful down here. I could drag over this and go into the next lake, but it's getting pretty close to dark and I have quite a ways to go back. So I want to make it around a few more of the islands and then I'll head back to camp. Well, before I begin my big paddle back, I'm trying to just see if I can catch a fish here. I saw a couple jump, but water's still really cold. Everything seems pretty shallow. There's just a few deep spots out in the middle. Otherwise, you're hitting a lot of lily pads in here. But giving it a try anyway. This island has a picnic table and a dock. I don't know if I trust the dock. It doesn't look too safe. Oh, it's quite set up. There's a fire pit with garbage, of course. Picnic table doesn't look so well. If I had known this was here, I would have camped on it. View to the north. Get to look out at one of the other little islands. Oh, it's pretty cool. Anyway, I got a long way to go. Stretch my legs real quick, and then I'm going to have to double time it and get back before it gets dark. I'm paddling along, and all of a sudden I notice there's two waterfowl out in the lake ahead of me, and I realized they're loons, and so they let me paddle right in close to them, and I got out the big camera. The lighting is getting bad, so I don't know how sharp the image of them is, but I mean, they were really close to me. I was hoping one would sing or something, but anyway, got a few shots of them. I mean, they didn't care I was even there, so pretty cool. I was going to make chicken and rice for dinner, but I'm feeling pretty lazy tonight, so I'm going to have some of that sweet bourbon jerky that I had up on my Rawhide Lake trip, and finish it off with some Planters peanuts, and I'm going to call it a night. I'm whipped. Well, the day is drawing to a close. Just going to build a fire and probably sit and watch it for a little bit and then go to bed. I'm pretty beat. Yeah, there's a lot to explore here. It's hard to do it in just a couple days. Wouldn't mind spending a little more time here. I was just getting ready to shove off to go fishing, and I started hearing a yappy bark. That sounds like a coyote. I kept watching the other shore across from me and just kept hearing it bark and bark and bark. And sure enough, the coyote, I don't know what he was upset about, but he just kept barking across the lake. It's almost like he was barking at me. Anyway, gonna give it a try, see if I can catch some fish. Got down into the 30s last night, so I'm not real optimistic, but we'll see. First fish of the trip. Huh. So the fishing is pretty slow. I figured it would be. I've only caught that one bluegill so far. I see where the beavers were cutting last night. They were making a lot of noise in the night. So there's a bunch of these over on this side. You can see where it was chewed off. All the bark was eaten off it. And they're just floating around out here in the water. Several of them over here. Here's another one. All bit off and stripped of bark. This is also where I heard beavers chewing away on stuff. And this is, the Coyote was over here too. That's the main beaver trail there. That must be the one they're using to come and go from up top. The sun is showing itself and it's warmed up quite a bit. As the sun came out, it seems like the fish started to bite, as little as they may be. So, another little teeny largemouth. Bye-bye. They get smaller and smaller. Monster. And there you have another baby bass. I'm not really taking fishing this morning that seriously. I did talk to a local who fishes here quite often, and he said that it's a little bit early, but in a week or two it's really good for bluegill, preferably with a fly rod. So that sounded intriguing, and I might have to come back and give that a try. I kind of regret not keeping the bluegill now, because a bluegill lunch sounds really good. So if I catch a few more, I just might have to do that. Well, it doesn't look like I'll be having fish for dinner. I'm going to head back to camp and get things packed up. Just want to say that I really enjoyed my 3 days here at the Haymarsh Lakes State Game Area. First day started out kind of windy and rainy, but I was able to see a lot of wildlife that day. I was pretty impressed with that. Otherwise, it's a really cool area. What I liked about the Haymarsh Lakes here is that there's small creeks that feed the lake, and there's beaver dams built on them, and so you can actually go from one tier to the other. Another thing I really liked about Haymarsh Lakes is that you don't have to look at any cabins or cottages on the lake shore. It gives you a little bit more of that wilderness feeling. So all in all, I really enjoyed my stay here, and I'm pretty sure I will be back. I do have to say that I was impressed with the amount of wildlife that I was seeing here. So that was definitely a bonus. So I'm going to make my way back to camp and get camp packed out, and I'll be heading out. Thanks for joining me on this little adventure, and we'll see you on the next one.